from the quagmire of underdevelopment to development. And point 16 says that government must take steps to revamp the manufacturing and agriculture sectors to encourage domestic production of some agricultural products as well as import substitutable manufactured goods. We are manufacturing or importing so much into this country.
Right.
You'd be surprised that we're even importing chewing sticks,
right,
toothpicks, everything. We're importing just about everything. Dr. Awuah, how do we open up our manufacturing sector? In the NDC manifesto for the 2012 elections, there was a lot of talk about the manufacturing sector. It was in the NPP manifesto as well. Even in previous elections, they had all talked about it. But we're not seeing the political will to open up this manufacturing sector as much as we want.
Right. I mean, this is a complicated area. You're right that this is probably the most important thing.
It is for me.
It links up with the whole question of small and medium enterprises, of enabling entrepreneurship, public support for the private sector. Yeah. All of those points are linked to this. Yeah. Okay. But we also import petrol now, by the way. Okay. And let me explain what's going on. I think that you need to have an environment that enables businesses to thrive, that enables businesses to look at market need and meet those market needs. And I want to talk about petrol for just a minute, because petrol, this is something that, before 2012, Ghana did not produce oil in any kind of commercial quantities. But Ghana had an oil refinery. We still do. Mm-hmm. So that was one company that was taking raw material imported from outside Ghana, from Nigeria and other places, adding value to it, creating petrol and other byproducts, bitumen and so on, mm-hmm. And selling it on the Ghanaian market. What did we do to that company? Well, we decided that petrol should be sold at a lower price than it costs to produce it in Ghana. And so, unlike other countries, you go into any country and you look at oil refineries, they are the best financed, wealthiest companies around. In Ghana, we managed to run an oil refinery that's broke, right? And because it's broke, it is unable to expand production. And so now we're stuck in a position where we're importing petrol. So if we want to enable manufacturing, we need to have an economy that really works with market forces. There are actually reasons and incentives for people to do the manufacturing. We also need to scan the global markets, scan our internal markets, and figure out where are the areas where we're producing a lot of a particular raw material, and can we add value to that raw material to create value. Okay. Another example, chocolate. Okay, we produce cocoa. We don't produce a lot of chocolate, and we certainly don't export a lot of chocolate. There are other countries that produce milk. They don't produce cocoa, but they import our cocoa beans. They process it with their milk and sugar, and they produce chocolate. We don't produce milk. But who says we can't import milk like they import cocoa and produce a chocolate here? And who says, by the way, that chocolate always must include milk anyway? Why aren't we doing research to formulate chocolate bars that perhaps don't use cow milk as an ingredient?
And CSR sitting there.
But that are using some vegetable oils and other things that we do produce here to create perhaps even a healthier chocolate bar than you would using milk. And so, but it all comes down to incentives. It all comes down to, are there the incentives? Do we have the right educational system? Do we have the right research institutions that are enabling this kind of activity to occur? And it's not something that happens overnight. You don't snap your fingers and happen overnight. Item 16 is super important. This is something that you come back a year from now and it won't be done because it takes time. Okay, and we need to be willing to take that time to get it done.
Okay. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the fact that we've identified manufacturing as one of the things that we need to transform our economy is actually a good one. Because if you've seen across the world in terms of economic development and transformation, manufacturing was very, very key in most of these economies. And so we are also identifying manufacturing as being one of the core things that we need to do in order to transform our economies. Now, I want to look at this manufacturing thing from just two simple angles. Our first one that we can involve in this manufacturing is whether we want to set up our own manufacturing firms. And the second one is whether we're able to position ourselves well. As Doc said, you look at the internal structure to position ourselves well to identify the various areas that we think we can add value to whatever that we have here. And that we can do that by attracting already existing manufacturing firms in other parts of the world into our economy. So that is also one approach that we can use. So first, we are trying to look at our own system, maybe be able to establish our own manufacturing firm. Second, be able to attract already existing foreign manufacturing firms into this part of the world. So when they come in, they take raw materials, they add value to whatever they take from here, they use local labor, and from there we can transform our economies. And I want to link that to, I think, point number 7 also, which was on GIP, so investment sort of thing.
The one-stop shop.
Yeah, the one-stop shop, which is very, very, very key in terms of attracting foreign direct investment to this part of the world. Because it becomes so difficult, so complex for foreign investors to come into the economy, then you have a challenge in terms of attracting foreign direct investment. And this manufacturing that we are talking about, it's form part of the foreign direct investment. So if you have a simplified way of doing business in this part of our country, then trust me, we'll be able to move forward in terms of increasing our manufacturing base. And I think I also want to make one simple example of how the manufacturing sector can actually bring about transformation in the lives of people. I'm just using the mobile phone, for instance, mobile phone evolution. I think Ghana is having about 75% mobile phone penetration in Africa, which is quite impressive compared to other parts of the continent. But that in itself is not about transformation. We are just consuming a mobile phone. And when we look at the mobile phone, it's made up of so many components. Okay, so the question you begin to ask is, which part of the component or which of the components of the mobile phone is being produced here using local resources or using local labor to be able to manufacture those components? If you're able to answer that question and make sure that in this mobile phone penetration that we are talking about, a lot of people are using mobile phone, which is quite good because it reduces the cost of doing business, easy means of communication and what have you, which is helping. But when we talk about real transformation in that line, it is only when in that mobile phone that we are using, there's that part of it that we are actually involved, which involve local labor, which involve local raw materials. In that sense, we can talk about transformation.
But are we in pole position though to provide those services?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm using that as an example. There are so many aspects. Doc made mention of the chocolate, the cocoa that we export raw material to the outside world. We go to follow them and then we go and import back the chocolate made from this cocoa. So all those angles, we need to make sure that there are processes. Let's talk about transformation. Let's talk about the production of the growth. Let's talk about the production of the growth and the distribution of that growth. So in between, the number of people that we get involved in between, then we can talk about transformation. I think that is where the manufacturing sector comes in. So if you're able to involve local raw materials and local labor, local skills in that form, then we can talk about transformation.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned transformation because my next question was actually going to be directed at Dr. Awuah. Recently, the President asked the National Development Planning Commission to come up with a transformation agenda for the country.
Right.
You think this is something that is worth the call at all?
A transformation agenda?
Yeah.
Clearly we do need a transformation in Ghana. And by the way, just before I answer that question, item 7 wasn't just about external investors. There should be a one-stop shop for investments, whether they're Ghanaians or foreigners. It should be really easy for a Ghanaian to set up a business. Okay, actually, it's more important to make it easy for Ghanaians to set up businesses than for foreigners.
You have that business that is thriving, doing very well. Was it easy for you?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it could be easier. Okay, but I think that when you do it right for your local entrepreneurs, then it will be easy for the foreigners as well. But it's really important to have that focus of, is it easy for a local person to set up a business, have it registered, become a formal sector business, do very simple reporting to the government, pay taxes in a simple way. This is really key. Transformation is a big word, and transformation requires a lot of moving parts. It requires really empowering an entire nation. That means you have to have a very strong educational system, you have to have a very strong public health system, you have to have a good regulatory environment that enables businesses to thrive, that protects consumers.
Yeah. And so we look at the energy and we look at the implication of energy crisis or energy deficiency on the economy. We look at small and medium enterprises, look at institutions, well-established institutions as well, but depending on energy household to actually carry on their day-to-day activities. And it all coming together, we can talk about transformation. I think that we are doing investment, as you said, but it's not enough. It's a question of demand and supply. How much energy are we demanding at the end of the day, and how much money are we putting in there to make sure we supply to compensate for the demand that we are demanding in this part. So I think that's where we should look at it from. We are investing, but we're not investing enough. Maybe there are areas of investment policy around the energy. Maybe we can involve more private hands. I'm sure there are a lot of interested parties who want to invest in the energy sector of this economy. How are we attracting them? How are we involving those private hands to make sure that we're able to generate to the capacity that we want in this part of our country? So I think that is where we should get it from.
Dr. Awuah, how would you feel if in the next 2 years we bring you back here to talk about the same problems?
I hope that in the next 2 years, when we're talking about the same problems, we'll also be talking about progress that has been made towards these problems.
But would you be disappointed if you don't see any progress?
Well, if we're talking about the same problems and there's been no movement, then I'd be very disappointed. But if there's been movement, then I'd be okay with
what
it.
What percentage of movement?
We just need the gradient to be positive, right? So, as long as there's progress being made, I'd be happy. Now, the faster the progress, the happier I'd be, right? So it's a question of how happy would I be? I'd be super happy.
Super happy
if the energy crisis is over, if the macroeconomic fundamentals of the country are stabilized, if the public sector has been reformed. And that the public sector really sees itself as a partner to the private sector and enabling the private sector, I'd be very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm so afraid we don't have too much time. I wanted to pick your thoughts on linking productivity and remuneration. So many issues that I want to talk about, but you're kicking me out of here. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Dr. Patrick Awuah, President at Ashesi University, and Paul Frimpong, Chartered Economist from Reflex Eco Group. Right? Thank you very much for your time this morning. All right. So the business segment was brought to you by Peak Milk. Drink Peak Milk every day. Peak Milk is richly packed with essential vitamins and minerals, so more Peak Milk means more brain power for you and your family. New Day returns in a tad.